grim darkness of the far future, there is only...
Hello champions, it's season prime time and today we're going to purge some heretics in Warhammer 40K Boltgun. Before we continue with the video, the Codex Astartes demands that I let you know that there will be story, weapon and level spoilers. And with that out of the way, let's jump into glorious battle! Warhammer 40K Boltgun is a game that understands to hit the spot just right when you feel like you really want to play one of those gems from the past where you could sit down in front of your preferred gaming medium and just have some nice old school nostalgia, first person shooter fun and add a nice layer of Warhammer 40K Space Marine Heretic Purgent pixel art demon killing goodness on top of it. 40K and FPS just works perfectly well together. It's basically a perfect match and you wonder why they didn't come up with this idea much earlier. The game has everything you could ask for and everything you might or might not remember from those glorious 90s era shooters. The graphics look awesome, the enemy design is interesting and the gameplay flows and works like a charm. It's like you travel back to the 90s playing any of the good old FPS games that we all remember so fondly. Alright, let's see what's on the menu. When it comes to the menu, the game does everything right. There's nothing bad that I could possibly say here. Now you might say, it's a menu, what could you possibly do wrong here anyway? Well, I won't get into that right now, but I will tell you that this game provides a lot of options that other games don't, and in my opinion that's something worth pointing out. First off, the retro tab. Here you can adjust 3 different things, namely the bloom, retro palette and pixelation effects. Now, the retro tab stood out for me here. It's like a visual toy that you can use to sort of play around with the graphics, so they either look very washed out or, super crystal clear. It's just a fun thing to play around with, honestly. The same goes for the pixelation slider. Here you can determine the level of, pixelation that you want to experience the game with. So you can either go full pixel and barely see much of the detail, or make the game look what I'd consider to be the quote-unquote normal pixel graphic FPS style. As a side note, I can totally picture somebody doing a full pixel meme run, so for that kind of purpose it would be kind of funny to do, but other than that I don't really see a reason to use these things. I'm not saying they don't have their place, I'm just saying they probably are best used for a very specific reason, like a meme run for example. Anyway, moving on. So what's really cool and interesting here is they basically give you what used to be a thing via the use of cheat codes right from the get-go back in the golden era of Doom likes. As you can see, you can give yourself infinite ammo, invulnerability, and all weapons if you like. So if you want, you can make the game super easy on yourself and experience the whole thing like an unkillable literal Terminator with all weapons and infinite ammo and just go completely crazy. And if that's not enough for you, you can also unlock all levels from the beginning as well. So let's say you don't have the time or you don't want to play one game for long enough to go through everything naturally. You can just make yourself an unkillable slayer and check out every level and be done with it and call it a day if you want. I mean, how cool is that? And we haven't even started the game properly yet. In my opinion, this freedom of choice is not only unique and quite interesting, it's absolutely brilliant, and many more games should consider giving their players more options so they can experience the game in the way they want without any downsides. I know it's a hot take and an arguable point for sure, but I have always been an advocate of choice and options, so there's that. The game has 4 difficulty levels: low, medium, hard and exterminatus. Now, imagine doing a playthrough on the hardest difficulty level, but you made yourself invulnerable and gave yourself all the ammo and weapons. I mean, who'd in their right mind do that, right? Well, I did, in order to showcase what that would look like. And yeah, you breeze through it like nobody's business. But hey, it's fun, and if you want to go ham like that, you do it and enjoy the game in whatever way you deem fun for you. It's awesome. Next up is the story. Now, I'm a huge story guy when it comes to video games, but in a game like this, I wouldn't expect a huge, engaging or compelling story. I'd expect a short introduction to the setting, if at all, and then just go crazy. In Boltgun, there's a bit of a story, which is told via an introductory cinematic. You are an ultramarine sent on a mission to investigate signs of demonic taint/warp on the world of Graia by the Inquisition, and your fellow space marines die because your drop pod crashes and you are the only one left alive. And now you are the one marine to purge Graia from heretics and demons. Later on there will be more of those little cutscenes that help evolving the story a little further. So for one of those retro shooters, there is a surprisingly high amount of story, which is not bad, but also not really expected. By me anyway, so that's like a cherry on top and a welcome feature. It's worth pointing out that they give you this little Servo Skull that floats with you and prompts you with short messages about what's going on. Sometimes it kind of tells you what to do or roughly what's going on, although in my opinion that is at no point in the game something you really wonder about too much. It's always purge, clear or kill everything and collect all the shiny stuff, find secret rooms or items like keys and get through the level. If you play a game like this, there really isn't much more. Still, having the Servo Skull is okay, since you can also adjust the length of its prompts in the options, so that never really irritated me. Now let's talk about the graphics. Spoiler alert, they're awesome. The graphics of this game are, as I mentioned before, kind of flexible via the menu. But other than that, they did a great job on encapsulating the atmosphere, the entire feel and the typical iconic look of a Warhammer 40K world in my opinion. The world, the enemy design, all those details in the surrounding, like the iconography, weapon design and overall visuals are exactly on point and immerse you in a 90s Duke Nukem-like first-person shooter in the Warhammer 40K style. There are a lot of skulls, enemies that you will recognize if you are somewhat knowledgeable about certain Chaos fractions like Chaos Space Marines or Chaos Gods like Nurgle and Slanesh, so those who are familiar with the ins and outs of the Chaos Gods. And if you are, the Inquisition will knock on your door shortly. Then you will immediately understand what enemies you're up against and what's going on here. Next up is the soundtrack. The soundtrack in this game is the only thing that is a tiny bit off, but also in a good way. It's a little weird, let me explain. Let me just say, the start menu lets you know what you're in for when it comes to the music in this game. You will be getting a lot of 80s to 90s instrumental rock music with a lot of typical riffs and long solos, which is absolutely fitting for a game that shoots for the 80s, 90s nostalgia vibe. Now, to mix it all up, there's also a lot of electronic music that kind of fits the 80s, 90s wave vibe a bit, and that tends to fit a little better into certain levels. Overall, I guess I would expect a lot of chanting and choir and, marching music kind of sound in a 40k game. But honestly, I usually turn the music down a bit anyway, since I want to hear the ambient noises and the sound effects of the weapons and everything, rather than the music in most games. I know, the Codex Astartes does not approve of my actions, but the Emperor protects. Also, the weapon and overall combat sounds are extremely convincing and satisfying in my opinion. Let me just show off some of it. Okay, let's talk about the gameplay. Oh yeah, the gameplay, or should I say the gunplay. It's probably the best thing about Boltgun, as it's simple and straightforward as you would expect. Now you're running, you're shooting, you're opening doors, you're collecting things and you complete levels. And that's the basic gist of it, and it's good as it is. Now for the technical side of things, you use the WASD for movement, spacebar for jumping, left mouse button for shooting and right mouse button to use your melee weapon, which is the iconic chainsaw that you can use to make quick work of all the basic enemies. Then you use Q for grenades, of which there are multiple kinds, and you can use the G button in order to flip between them. Also you can open doors by pressing E. So good so far. You can choose between 8 iconic weapons in this game. To name some of them, you have your usual bolter, the chainsword and the heavy bolter, among other weapons. They look cool, they all have a lot of impact, and they make quite the mess as you would expect. It's a lot of fun running and gunning your way through the heretical demon worshipping enemy hordes, turning everything into red puddles of mush. Conclusion. Short version, the game's glorious. For the long version, well, what can I say? There really are very few downsides to this game for me. The game hits the entire Warhammer 40k aesthetic right on the head. The atmosphere as well as the gameplay are very well crafted and a lot of fun to immerse yourself in. Now, if you don't like Warhammer at all, this will probably not be the first game for you to pick. But if you like the entire franchise, or at least don't mind 40k, then you will probably have a lot of fun in this game. And with a price tag of roughly €22, which is around £19 or 24 US dollars, you can't really go wrong in my opinion. It's a relatively small game as well, with only 5 gigs of space required, so there are very little downsides in trying it out for yourself. Honestly, this is a genre you either love or hate. And if you have a soft spot for the genre at all, you will love this game. Period. I know I enjoyed my time in this game, and I feel like this is going to be one of those games that I will keep coming back to every now and again in order to relax and have some silly fun with just mowing through bad guys and enjoy that feeling of just turning off your brain and relax while causing everything and everyone around you to explode in glorious fashion. Now we're gonna do something new. The game is going to get an official Season Prime rating. Now, in order to rate this game properly, I had to take a lot of things into consideration. Points I made in the video. But I had to think deeply on this, and of course I wanted to do right by the Omnissiah, the Inquisition, and all of you fellow grim dark science fiction Warhammer 40K aficionados. So, to make a long story short, and without further ado, I will give this game a fair and well-intentioned for the Emperor out of 10. If you made it this far into the video, you are an absolute Primarch, and I thank you very much for spending some of your precious time with me. If you feel like you learned something new or you got at least some entertainment out of my video, I'd appreciate a like and a sub a lot. You will find my social media links in the description if you prefer. I'm also on Threads now if you would like to reach out. I post there quite regularly, and the community on Threads is super awesome in my opinion. If you want to give me some feedback or feel like I didn't cover something important, let me know in the comments. And now I hope you will have a wonderful day, night, morning, afternoon or evening, whatever it may be. And I will see you next time. Cheers!